Good morning to you. This is Steve coming to you on a cinder track in Quakertown. Well, today is my 1 week overdue MAF test for April, which is okay. I had a week off, and so I didn't really get any training in. Well, I did not get any training in. So today is the makeup. I was going over to the regular track over at the high school, and it's 8:15, and there seemed to be arriving a lot of athletes. So I needed to find an alternate route. Well, let's see. Our daughter has taken the plunge to commit to Gordon College, and she let everybody know yesterday. So that news is out. We paid our deposit. She's filling out paperwork, etc., etc. So, yay, we have that behind us finally, and she's much more at peace. I think that was the problem. She just didn't feel convinced that the other school was the right school. So, what else is going on? Rained like the dickens last night. Oh my goodness. 3 o'clock I woke up. It was thundering and lightning all over the place. So I remember that I had an antenna hooked up to my radio up in the attic that went outdoors, and I decided it was a smart thing to disconnect for that. So I did. Then went back to sleep. But it was really storming. We had 1.4 inches in just a short period of time. I know there are places that get much more than that, but that was quite a show. Today is a community event over at the church. They call it the clothing boutique. So folks drop off gently used clothes. And then on Saturday, today, from 9 to noon, so in about 45 minutes, the doors open. The community comes to shop, take whatever they want. And so it's a nice event. We get lots of inquiries into it every year, lots of people. There's a lower cost hotel in town, and folks there don't have transportation, so we provide a van shuttle. So anyway, that goes on from 9 to noon. Two things I don't like. One is sorting clothes. So for the last 2 days, as people have dropped things off, they've sorted clothes. The other thing I don't like is cleaning up. But they didn't have a lot of people volunteer to stick around for cleanup. So I got recruited for that today. I was intending to be working on the yard. So I guess I will have to take a break. So I'm doing this first, then I'll do a little work in the yard, and then head on over at noon to help do the cleanup. They have a gentleman who comes every year and takes all the leftover shoes. It's a ministry up in Allentown, I think it's called Souls for Souls. And then they drop the excess clothing off at some of the local thrift stores that will take them. Salvation Army sometimes turns stuff away. So it's a little hard to... Yeah, they're very selective here. I'm not sure why that is. I guess they just get so many donations that they need to weed things out, keep it from accumulating in the first place. In my last podcast, I mentioned how there's an 11-year sunspot cycle for radio conditions. And I guess we are near the bottom, so it's like conditions couldn't be any worse. But I've had some contacts with Italy lately around sundown, maybe a little before sundown here. Conditions have just been right to make contact. Now, this is not a long contact. It's just a confirmation. Do you hear me? Do you not hear me? So, the other thing I'm doing is working through the attic and trying to throw stuff out. Keep all too many boxes up in the attic. And so, trying to determine which ones can be tossed. So I have them set aside, but I need Margie's approval. I was going to throw out a printer box, and then decided to list the printer on eBay. So best to keep that for a little bit. If it doesn't sell, then we'll get rid of it. But at least try. Even if it sells for a few dollars, that's more than you had. So yesterday I put up one thing I already got a bid on is an old 2-meter mobile radio manufactured by a company called Yaesu, and it uses crystals to tune instead of digital electronics these days, and it has a lot of limitations. It works just fine for what it was designed for. Just doesn't work very well with today's equipment. But I already have a bidder on that and a couple of people watching it, so we'll see what happens there. So printer, routers, I'm collecting routers up in the attic. Some books I might list also. Purchased a set of books, the works of Benjamin B. Warfield. He was a Princeton seminary professor back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I think. I'm just not going to get around to reading the 8 volumes there, so I might list that. And then as we clean up, hopefully we'll just keep coming across things that we can see if anybody is interested in making it their own and us earning a little cash that way. All right, sun is coming out. It's really pleasant temperatures. There's a slight breeze. So even on a cinder track, the worms are out. Worms. Right now it is ant season in the house. Not sure what they're finding. They're looking all the time. Anytime you leave a crumb on the tabletop, there they are. If you spill a spot of juice, they're going to find it. The interesting thing is they have not found their way to the garbage can. So we have 2 kinds of ants that are in the house right now. One are the big black ants that are more likely carpenter ants. Well, I don't know, maybe not, because they're looking for sugar. They usually invade our garbage can. And they're around, but they have not gotten into the garbage, which is kind of odd. And the other kind of the little red ants, the normal ones you see, and they're looking for sugar as well. So we just try to keep clean countertops and everything put away. Sometimes we have to move things. Sometimes they get into the cupboards and they find something sweet that's not sealed up tightly, or they get into cereal boxes, and then we have to move the open cereal boxes to a safe place. We even have some that are little grease ants, and they get into things like shortening and peanut butter. And it's always we move things. So for the garbage can, we put it on top of a chair, and then they don't seem to find it. Shouldn't be too much longer before I start my MAF test here. Make sure I got the right string. Let's see. the right thing on my my smooth run, so I'm running and not cycling. Oops, I hit stopwatch instead of timer. That's okay. So in case any of you know any other ham radio operators, my call sign is KB9CNN. And that issued in Indiana. I'm still using my original logbook for when I make contact with people. The earliest ones were 1989. I thought for some reason I wasn't licensed until 1991, but maybe that must have been an upgrade of my license. All right, well, I am going to I'm going to get my running underway. So perhaps we'll talk again after this is done. We won't worry about the results. We'll just run according to plan. All right, so talk to you in a little bit. Alright, well, I'm done with the MAF test for April. So I had to clear out because there was a Superheroes fun run sponsored by the YMCA. It was just setting up as I was finishing my last couple of laps. So you got, saw Batman, you got dads dressed up, you've got kids dressed up. Looks like a lot of fun. Okay, so my MAF test this time, a little slower than last time, but I am one heartbeat rate lower since I have had a birthday. So, not surprising, but the interesting thing is, overall, it was quicker. So my each successive mile was slower than the previous, but the difference between them wasn't so great. So they were all in the 15-minute range, whereas before it was 15:10 to 16:10 or thereabouts. So still had the results that you'd expect in a MAF test, a little slower each mile, but interesting how the differences weren't so much. It is, the last one I did was 43 degrees and 81% humidity. Today it is quite a different thing. Let's see, I didn't look and see what that was. Doesn't have the weather here yet. But if I were to look weather.com, I'm sure it would tell me. Let's see. So slight breeze. It's 68 degrees and 94% humidity. So quite a difference in temperatures, and that can have an effect on your heart rate as well. So they say to try to duplicate the conditions best you can. So same shoes, same location. Now I figure a track's a track even if it was cinder. I doubt that the tartan track was going to be too much different. But the weather, on the other hand, going from winter to spring. All right, well, let's see. Next Saturday is a 5K run in support of the Truth for Women project. It will be up in Saucon Valley, north of Coopersburg. Maybe it's Center Valley is the actual name of location, but it starts at the Upper Saucon Park, and it's just an out and back on the rail trail. So looking forward to that, and we'll not be keeping to pace. We'll just be running to what's comfortable, and see how that goes. Did that in Washington, D.C. a little bit. Didn't see a great change from what I'm doing, so there probably is a place for some speed work or something that gets you going a little bit more, but I don't know. Still trying to build that base, so I'm not going to worry about getting faster right now. Now we'll keep working the base. That'll be the foundation, I guess. A good turnout here. I'd say there's about 35 to 40 people all told. I don't recognize all the superheroes anymore. My daughter asked me to name all the Disney princesses last night. You know, I never would have even thought that they were princesses. Like Snow White. She's just Snow White. I know, she was the daughter of the king. Cinderella really wasn't. I mean, she became one. Sleeping Beauty became one. Yeah, I don't know. So, I don't know. I missed a few. Did pretty well. All right. Well, that wraps up my day, I think. And that wraps up today's talk session. So while I was running, I was listening to a podcast called Everything Ham Radio, and I'm not listening to all of them. He's got about 64 podcasts so far, and he is from Texas, and he goes into some depth of many subjects. Sometimes he's hard to listen to because he stumbles over his words too much. He mumbles a little bit. He says, you know, too often. So it's interesting to listen to somebody else, and you wonder what you do habitually, whether you speak clearly. His you know sometimes comes out nyo. So I don't know. Where I currently am walking, it's Strayer Middle School. By the way, the school district just recently, they've had a number of meetings about closing a couple of the schools next year because of the need to save money. The killers here on school budgets, I think it's the killer just about everywhere, is pensions and school employee pensions. Some agreement was made years ago to guarantee a return rate, which is just absurd. Think about interest rates in the last, what's going on 10 years now. They've been low. And how can you keep up with maybe a guaranteed return of 7% when the interest rates are at or below 1% for years on end? So it's kind of breaking the banks, breaking the backs of the citizens. And why it's guaranteed, I don't know. But it is a hardship. So somehow that needs to get addressed some year. Otherwise, you just can't keep doing that perpetually. So they're closing down 2 high-maintenance older schools, and there were plans to build a new one And they bought property for that right adjacent to the church where I work. But I think any plans are going to be held off for an indefinite period of time. And they are going to move the 9th graders in with the rest of the high school. So currently we have a freshman center at a high school that are separate, and they'll move the freshmen in with the high schoolers and make the freshman center a 6th grade center, and then move all of the 7th and 8th graders into one middle school, or maybe they'll go back to calling it junior high. So that's the plan. Well, for some reason my recording stopped out, so I had to pick back up, and I will join these together on my computer later. All right, well, the run is done. I snapped a couple of shots of the superheroes, so I might attach those to my Strava run picture, and then get back to the rest of the day. So I've got some yard work I need to get working on. It's so wet after last night. I think I'll start with trimming, gas up the trimmer and get that going and continue listening to podcasts. Carlos, I hope you're doing well. Saw the picture of you in the cast, and hope you are recuperating and not going too stir crazy. All right, my friends. This is Saturday, April the 29th. Can't believe May is almost here, but it's upon us. So, sounding off and checking out from Quakertown, PA. Take care, friends.